Hello everyone. Let's try that again. Hi everyone. Hi. Sick. Okay, cool. I am definitely not tonight's host at all. I'm holding a clipboard. I'm here to bring on the person, to bring on the other person. But anyway, I'd like to bring on a good friend of mine. Her name is Harnum Kerr. Everyone's meant to come. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. I'm going to bring on Harnum Kerr, and she's going to say some words. Can I get that? Huh? No, I didn't see this.
Hi everyone. Right, I might do this because I tend to speak with my hands. So you can all hear me though, right? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So hi everyone, my name is Harnum. I work as an anti-bullying activist, body confidence activist, a self-love advocate, and an all-round bearded G. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. I absolutely appreciate it. Absolutely, wholeheartedly appreciate every one of you coming out. And I'm sure that a lot of you have come from work or from different areas, even out of London. And I thank you. It's because of you that this was able to happen. So I appreciate you guys so much. First of all, I would like to introduce my brand called Treasures Within. It's a brand that my manager and I established because we felt that a lot of people out there were lacking self-love, and there were a lot of people out there that were struggling with things like body shaming, bullying, self-harm, body image issues and low self-esteem, and we literally made this brand to help people uplift themselves. And so I tour around, I tour with this brand nationally and internationally. I share my story of being bullied to now a bearded boss, and and we've been to many different countries as well. And recently we went to Trinidad and Tobago, and we went to Italy too. I've been lucky enough, this is my second event, actual event. My first one was for International Women's Day. I know there's a few faces that I saw there as well, that are here. So my first event was for International Women's Day in March early this year, and my second one is the Love Thyself event, right here, right now. Thank you. I find it extremely important to hold events like this because, like I said, a lot of people lack self-love, and it's the most easiest thing that you can do, and it's the most liberating thing that you can do for yourself is just have love. But when people are struggling with body image issues, and they have done for years and years and years, having love for yourself can be one of the hardest things to do. But I can honestly tell you that once you do it, the liberation that you feel is absolutely heartwarming. Nothing can tear you down. It's so powerful, and any opinions that people have of you just won't touch you because you love yourself unconditionally. Unconditional is the powerful word there. It's the key word. And we tend to cater more towards our worldly possessions, such as our social medias, our cars, our houses, which is fine. Social media is fine if you use it wisely, but we tend to forget to take care of the one thing that we need to prioritize, which is ourselves. So that's why I feel that it's important for me to tour around with Treasures Within as a brand to help people basically just love themselves instead of allowing people to fit into society's little labeled boxes. I mean, who wants to be normal? I mean, I look around here tonight and I see so many beautiful people, and not one person is the same as the next. You're all so beautifully different, and that's the most powerful thing right now here in this building. It's just that everyone is so unique, everyone is so diverse, and everyone is so. First of all, you're open. Your hearts are open for you to even come and hear me talk. When a lot of society right now would be very judgmental. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for just coming out. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Right here, right now, this event is all about love. So you're going to hear me say love a lot. It's okay. Thank you. Woo, who said that? I'm going to give you a kiss later. You're gorgeous. Hi. It's for you guys to mingle amongst yourselves and talk to people that you would never talk to before, to converse with people about things that you probably won't even think about conversing about. Right here, right now, is an opportunity for you guys to embrace your flaws. I say flaws like this because it's societies that has given things like our stretch marks a negative name, given the body hair that we have a negative name. They've put this stigma attached to it where you're not allowed to show your underarms if you've got hair there. Or, oh my god, if you're pregnant, we don't want to see your pregnant belly. Where's Kat? Kat, where's my friend Kat? Yo, my mate Kat, she was pregnant. She's got a 3-week-old baby. Hey, Baba. Yo, she was walking around with a tank top, what's it called? What's that crop top? Belly top, looking like a G in that. I rate you so much. Absolutely beautiful. And right here, right now, is for you to embrace things about yourself that you thought you never could embrace. And it's about you finding love for those things and finding compassion for those things that the society would deem as unattractive. Right? I mean, you all are so beautiful. It's amazing. And don't hide yourselves from society. Don't hide yourselves from this world, because you have something inside of you that society needs. You've got something inside of you that is so grand that why are we trying to fit into society's boxes? Why is it that we try and mold ourselves to cater to society's needs and this world's needs, when actually, if you think about it, it's the gifts and the gems that we have inside of us, that is what society needs for it to flourish. So why are you hiding yourself away? Why do we do that as a collective, as a group of people that are so powerful? If you all come from one God and we all come from this amazing light, this amazing source, why do we hide ourselves away when each and every one of us, whether you believe in a higher power or not, we are still individually powerful people? So why do you hide yourselves? Why do we hide ourselves? Why do I hide myself? Why did I hide myself? Think about it, right? Now, there's a good group of people in this building right now. Now imagine if all of us were unashamedly ourselves and we connected through the power of love. If we connected all our vibes, if we connected all our higher frequencies, imagine this room could shake. If we were open to understand how powerful we are as people, imagine how this world, we could rock the world. We could absolutely shake mountains. We are that powerful. We come from this universe. The universe is huge. Now imagine if we were to unleash the power that we had inside of us. The earth is this small. If you look at the wider universe, but yet we come from the universe. Now can you imagine the strength that we have inside of us as people? It's absolutely groundbreaking, absolutely beautiful. Now I hope you have the nerve to be yourself, regardless of people's judgments, regardless of what society says. I hope you have the nerve to love yourself. I hope you have the power inside of you to just say, fuck it. Yes! Why don't we just say that? No, I have stretch marks. I want to rock my stretch marks. Yes, I'm a little bit larger than other people, but do you know what? That's okay, because my presence is going to be known. It's okay to have hair. It's okay to have scars on a new body. It's okay to have these things that society deems as unnatural or silly or unattractive. It's okay, because we don't tell ourselves that it's okay. Do you know why? Because we listen to other people's opinions. Because negativity is very powerful. Negativity is very powerful because that's all you see in society these days. I don't like listening about Trump anymore. Why is it that people are just like, Trump is, I don't care. I want to talk about powerful people. I want to talk about activists. I want to talk about people who actually love themselves for who they are. Now, the most important relationship that you can have is with yourself. You can search this whole universe and you will find no one out there that is more deserving of your love than you are. There is no one out there. And it's you who needs to figure that out for yourself. No one can tell you. I believe that if you want to change this world, you need to change your world first. If you want there to be love in this world, you need to find self-love. Because you can only exude what you have. I can't show love to people if I don't have it first. I believe that love or self-love is powerful enough to stop wars. Bars. I believe that having self-love, loving ourselves and loving other people is so powerful that it can stop wars. That's how beautifully strong we are. And I just wish that we can actually understand that. And it's because of your self-discovery, knowing your worth and your values, that you're able to actually realize how worthy of this power you are, how worthy of this love you are. You need to realize your self-esteem. You need to value your value. You need to realize that you're beautiful, absolutely beautiful, so beautiful. And also remember, I want to finish with this. A diamond cut is still a diamond. So even though you go through your hurdles and they break you, I know that I go through hardships, I suffer from anxiety and it breaks me. But if I break, I'm able to pick myself up the way that I want to. I'm able to build myself up how I want to. And I value myself enough, and I hope you do too, to know that I am a powerful individual just as you guys are. And I would love to just leave with that. Thank you so much. Okay, now, I've seen Prosecco outside, so I'm going to do my thank yous now. I'm sorry, come on. Okay, I would absolutely love to thank the panelists that have come today. They will be reintroduced to you again, but I just want to say thank you personally from Badnam Core. I want to thank Vishamba. Where's Vishamba? Hey girl. Lottie, where's Lottie? Hi, thank you for coming. Rishi. Hi, Rishi and Millie I would like to thank. They're actually a couple and they're so beautiful. Give them thumbs later, please. Calvin, you are a G. A special thanks to Calvin. He actually flew over from America yesterday just to be here. Absolutely amazing. Amazing, thank you. And Callie, where is Callie? Hi. And Scotty, thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. But also the artists, oh my God, I'm so sorry. The artists that are performing today, thank you so much. My wonderful team, thank you so much. You know, I'm able to hold these events because of you. I want to thank Lush Cosmetics as well for actually allowing me to do an event here. The whole team has been very hospitable and very generous, so thank you all so much. I always like to show appreciation when it comes to these events. I know I'm talking a lot, but you know, I'm sorry, I talk a lot. I actually want to get my manager Q. Come. Everyone cheer him up. And I'm going to bring on Bella. Hi, my darling. Go on, Bella, give her a round of applause. And Kat, I can't forget you. Kat and Luna, give Kat and Luna a round of applause. My manager and I work because we both have a very similar interest when it comes to advocating for self-love and changing the world. And I always show my appreciation. I'm talking to you, blood. I always show my appreciation to you because I genuinely love you, and you know, because of you, I'm able to do what I'm doing and have the outreach that I do. So I want to thank you so much. Bella, I want to thank you for coming onto our team and actually allowing and helping, you know, this event to happen. So thank you for all your help. Kat, oh wow. Now this woman deserves a round of applause, and I'll tell you why. Now her baby Luna is 3 weeks old, and it's funny because I've only known her pregnant. And all through her pregnancy, she worked and she worked and she worked and she worked. And not once did she say, no, Hanum, I can't do this. I will try, I will do it, I will get it done for you. That's all she said. I'm gonna cry. Even when she gave birth to her daughter, at the start of the day, she was filming a vlog for me and we went to an event together, and in the evening she gave birth to Luna. Can you please go around? She spoke that, you know, you were going to have have September off to look after baby. But even in the 3 weeks that she's had baby Luna, she's been working. Now that is what I call power. Thank you so much. No, wait. I'm not done yet. Right,
She put presents up.
So this gold one by G is for you. Thank you so much. Like, I absolutely appreciate everything that you guys have done. Thank you. Oh, where you going, blood? What are you doing, fam? That's not it. I know this event hasn't started yet properly. Well, it has, but I'll keep talking. But you guys have worked excruciatingly hard. From me and from everyone at Lush, you guys are going to have spa treatments too. Thank you. Come on. Yeah, so I absolutely appreciate everyone for coming. Thank you to everyone at Lush. My team and Luna, thank you so much. You guys made this happen. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. You can go now. Hey. Right, one last thing. I'm not actually hosting this event. I'm not hosting this event, but I have this beautiful host. Yo, he's buff. Jeez, I can see him looking at me. Don't eye me up, you know. You talk later, don't worry about it, blood. Come on, I know you're looking at my beard and that. You know you want it. I want to introduce our host Richie for today. Right, I'm going to pass on the mic. I mean, I would like to drop mic, but it's going to make too much of a noise. Bearded lady out, please.
I used to have a big beard, by the way. So yeah, I'm your host. I'm going to do the boring stuff, and I probably should have said this before Harlem came on, actually. There's going to be some bad language, but she already said the F word, so you know you're going to also play. But yes, I want to go through the housekeeping stuff, you know, all the boring stuff that usually happens at shows. So please put your phones on silent. This is not the car phone warehouse. No, we don't want any ringing going on in the background. Also, if you want to submit questions, please download the Slido app. Slido, Slido. The event code is 7385, so you can submit all your questions for the panel through there. So you know we're a little bit technological in here, futuristic and all that. For all of your social media platforms, please use the Love Thyself hashtag, which is up there. You know, I was looking for it and didn't realise, so it's up here on the boards. Toilet at the right of the stage. What I'll ask you to do is be really careful of the door, because it does slam. Bit medieval. So when it is closing, please make sure it closes gently. Fire exit is where you came in, so just follow the person running. And you walk, those of you who have drinks, there'll be glass cups. So we're going to ask you to be really careful with the glass cups. We don't want any smashed glass, no claims direct, all of that kind of stuff. Strong language, I said already, and unanswered questions. Everybody has Instagram, so everyone on this panel, they'll have Instagram names. If none of your questions get answered, or if your question in particular doesn't get answered, then please set them up on Insta. So first, we've got a singer coming up. No, I'm lying. You see, a host job is really hard, you know. I noticed I didn't get thanked in the beginning. No, I'm joking. I'm trying to get on that team for that spa. So yeah, we've got a poet up first. So poems, can you please make your way to the stage? Put your hands together, please.
You scared me for a bit when you said singing. I was like, I'm not going to sing. I'm going to do some poetry. But my name's Amelia, but my stage name is Poems. And a lot of the stuff I write, well, I'm an actress as well, but in between jobs, because you know what the industry's like, I need to keep creative, so I write my own stuff. And a lot of the stuff I write is to kind of release negative feelings and negative experiences. So a lot of the stuff I talk about are intimately and explicitly about what I go through. And self-love is something that I've recently decided to venture on to, so I'm going to do 2 poems that kind of explore my internal dialogues about self-love. So the first one is about Instagram, and my love-hate relationship with Instagram, which I feel like most people can relate to. Like, you need to be on it, but you don't want to be on it, but you love being on it, but you hate being on it. And I've even got 3 Instagrams, but I hate Instagram. So this is my poem called My Relationship with Instagram. Powerful women, you empower me now. When I'm swimming in a sea of doubt, when I'm swimming in a sea of followers and likes, like deep down I know this shit doesn't even feel right. Staying up all hours of the night, filtering my face to make sure it looks just right for a couple hundred people I may never meet in my entire life. Digital projections with insecure intentions with a hashtag mention of a woman crush Wednesday. And yeah, I'll feel good today, but tomorrow's Thursday, so I'm back to feeling low. But it's Thursday throwback, so it's back in time. I go back to the times when I hated myself again. And wasn't that just pretend? Because I look at the old me and envy like I actually look better then. Better than I do now. Like, wow, nostalgia's a cow. Like, wow, I'm actually in competitions with old versions of me. Like, change and growth is a physical hindrance, and I'm back to counting calories like it's my currency. And I'm constantly judging me and comparing me to everyone else on this social platform I know is no good for my mental health. Dissatisfaction made up on the grounds of a picture of a person. And I'll make myself feel better saying, I bet you they don't even look like that in person. I know she's holding in her stomach and waiting to take a breath after the flash. And I know she's got so much makeup on her face to cover her rash. And I know she's twisted up her legs to accentuate her curves. And I know all of this because I am her. In this abusive relationship with a form of technology, and the abuse comes in the forms of psychology, the psychology that feeds consumerism, because misery feeds consumerism, because misery feeds consumerism, and all the people I hold on pedestals are advertising fit teas and waist trainers, so they're all in my online basket on the night of my month's wages, because misery feeds consumerism, and I've been waiting ages to feel happy with myself, but really all this is doing is making me hate my actual self. So thank you to the women who stare down the lens and wear their scars as enhancements. Thank you to the women who wear their imperfections as an implication that the word perfect is only here to hinder a nation and ruin its chances of ever accepting itself. Thank you to the women who are beautiful and own it. No, actually, thank you to the women who own it and for that are beautiful. Thank you to the women who stand tall and bear all in this war on how we should look, what size, what shape, what shade, what weight. I don't even know when numbers became so attractive. Who cares if you're a size 12, 14, 22? Don't let anyone ever chat shit to you and tell you how you should look. Thank you to the women who show their stretch marks and remind me that it's normal and it's not strange. Thank you to the women who catwalk down the sidewalk in their plus size range. Thank you to the women who compliment other women every other day. Thank you to the women that remind me that I can look like this and it's okay. Thank you. So the second poem I'm going to do is one of my favourites because every time I say it I always realise, wow, I really needed to hear that for myself. Because a lot of the times I do write, like I don't stand up here and preach to everyone else, it's generally internal conversations I have with myself. So this one was just, I was just so fed up of waiting for validation of other people to feel beautiful, and I was just thinking I can't jump from relationship to friendship to relationship just so I can feel like I'm wanted. I need to want myself first and accept myself first. So this one's called Just Beautiful. Last night I gave myself a hug. I got my arms and I wrapped them around me tight enough. It felt a bit weird at first, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm trying out this thing called self-love. See, I want to love everything about me, exclusively, unapologetically, because somehow I was made to believe I wasn't made beautifully because I don't look like what they portray beauty to be. But beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and he calls me beautiful only to get his leg over, but that's all I want to hear. So I fall for his words like a shot soldier and just lie there, bare. But the war isn't over, constantly fighting the words, she's ugly, she ain't even that nice, her friends told me, yeah, she's alright, and then he calls me beautiful and I'm weak. So easily knocked off my feet, I soak up the sweet words he speaks to me, a couple kisses on my neck and I give him me, and then he changed. We used to speak every day and now he hasn't replied to me for about a week. My whole self-worth becomes deprived as it only seems to thrive off the validation of others, and a storm is brewing in my mind going over the lies I even bought off this brother, like damn, I'm going to delete my Instagram page because the pictures of me make me feel sick. I don't look like the girls on the Explore page, so I might as well cut it. My whole mood is affected because I feel rejected, completely unexpected as I got lost in the sauce and neglected myself again, of course, like, girl, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want? What is it that you're yearning for? The emptiness inside you is empty because you haven't entered it before. There's a whole library of books on you that you haven't even read before, and there's voices inside you you're choosing to ignore, screaming, you are beautiful. You are made just the way you're supposed to be. The universe makes no mistakes, so listen to me carefully, let's have this conversation. When you walk around not knowing yourself and not owning yourself, you give off this certain type of vibration, one that is preyed on by people that feed off the insecure. You need to know yourself more, you need to love yourself more. You need to build a strong constitution because you can't just fall, and then you need to accept that this is you. Do you think the sun is envious of the moon? No, because comparison is a killer of all joy. And girl, please don't tell me that you're crying over this boy. What, because he didn't see you for your undeniable beauty? That's his problem. Now let's keep it moving. I want you to try something. I want you to call off the search and be on your own for a moment. Be single and own it. Stop preying all the images of the girls on the gram and stop thinking to yourself, oh my God, how fat I am, and just do you. Because what you manifest inside is what radiates out of you, and then your spirit becomes lifted, and it should be because you're gifted with the ability to bring life into this world. Or did you forget that one, girl? Built in a way to carry a child for about 274 days, and you don't think you're strong enough to carry yourself with your head held high? Girl, bye. Only a couple lines left. I want you to close your eyes and get your arms and wrap them around you tight. Can everyone actually do this? It's called giving yourself a hug. It's called self-love. Thank you, guys.
Can we have one more cheer for Poems, please? Was that not a beautiful way to open up? A beautiful exploration of emotional vulnerability and body positivity. Thank you so much. What I probably should have done in the beginning is told you a bit about what you're expecting today. I don't feel like you're sitting there like, yeah, this is great, but what's happening? So, obviously we've had poems. What's going to happen is we're going to have 2 panel discussions. We're going to have a singer as well, and just a bit of excitement tonight. So I hope you're ready. So you ready for a panel discussion? Yeah. A bit louder, please. Yeah. Excellent, that's what I like. So I'm just going to welcome some of the panelists to the stage. So first I'd like to welcome Basham Banas. Basham, where are you? Oh yeah, do you want to come on? Yeah. She's like, yeah, I'm filming now, I'm coming. Bashamba is the first British Asian plus size model. She's a social worker and a magistrate. Can you give it up, please? Do you want to say a bit about yourself before we start?
Yeah,
I've
got a mic, I forgot about that one. Yes, you've said it all in the introduction. So I'm the first British Asian plus size model. I'm also working in the field of child protection, and I'm also the first youngest Asian female magistrate in the country too.
Big it up. Yes. Nice to take a seat. I'm going to welcome the next panelist on the stage. I feel like I want to sit. So next is Lottie Lamore. A bit louder. I mean, come on. We're live. We've got to let people know we're in the room. Okay, good. So Lottie is a plus-size fashion and body positivity blogger from London. Do you want to tell everyone a bit about yourself?
Sure. Is this it's working.
Now, did it?
I know. I'm not used to this. So I'm a fashion and plus-size fashion and body positivity blogger. I talk and run my mouth on Twitter quite a lot. So if you've seen me on there, that's what I'm most known for. Yeah, that's me. But I'm all about learning to love who you are inside your body and inside your skin, just for who you are. Like, you don't have to change. So that's what I'm going to be talking about much today.
Fantastic. Give it up for Lottie. Right, next up on the panel we have Rishi. Not Richie, Rishi. Richie and Rishi show. Rishi's an entrepreneur, a pharmacist, and a father. You might tell?
So hi everyone, my name is Rishi. As already said, I'm a pharmacist, a loving father. We have a baby with Millie here. We will see later on. And I also have a property investing company. So my kind of bit is more around the male body positive side, because there's not too much of that. There's going to be a lot of guys that might need a bit of help and stuff, so I wanted to kind of create a space for that to help other guys.
Fantastic, thank you, Rishi. Last but not least, we've got Scotty. Getting quiet,
Hello. Don't feel like you have to clap. It's not obligatory. Judging you.
Do you want to? I just. Okay,
What?
yeah. So Scotty's
You've got so many questions going through your brain. I love this.
It's literally my life.
Good. This is a bit like a weird house party, isn't it?
So, Scotty, why are you doing this to me?
Anything.
Scotty is an international artist who focuses on thought-provoking works of art. He's an activist and he's a self-proclaimed troublemaker, as you can see. Ready to get the show on the road?
I thought you were going to ask me to talk about myself. You asked everybody else, like,
He made such an introduction. You know you're a bit like, yeah, he's definitely in the room now. But yeah, introduce yourself, Scotty.
I make artworks, sorry, apologies, I'm an artist. I make work about conversations that people often don't want to have. I go to places that people don't want to go to, and I have difficult conversations with people. Essentially, my life is about going, yeah, but patriarchy.
It's a blouse, not a shirt.
It's a blouse. Everyone all day has been going, I love your shirt. And I'm like, it's a blouse.
Thank you, Scotty.
Yes.
I don't want to stand in the way, so I feel like I should sort of be there. Okay, so the first question, you know that present stuff, turning the page. So the first question is, so a lot of people have views on body confidence and health. So based on those views, what are your opinions? So the general consensus, what you're hearing around on social media and people, you know, kind of views in the street. What are your kind of opinions on those?
I'm going to throw myself in the fire with this one.
Do it,
That's how it's happening, it's happening. So I'm a huge advocate for the fact that you can be any size, any shape, any health, any ability, and be positive about who you are. Body positivity is such a wide range of things, and it doesn't stop if you're unhealthy. It doesn't stop if you have different abilities to other people. Body positivity is literally for everyone, and I'm so passionate about that. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Richie, could you move your legs, because it's in my light?
Yeah.
Because I've got a really long answer to this question.
We're ready to hear it, Scotty. We're ready.
What I'm going to tell you is this is publicly the last time I, as a fat person, am going to answer a question about health. It's boring, it derails the conversation. Where constantly, a body positive event, this question comes up. And it's an act of violence. It isn't one about positivity. It's going, yeah, you're fat, but you're unhealthy. So let's break this down. When we're talking about health, we're talking about elitism. We're talking about who's got access to health, but we're also talking about this idea that maybe we should perhaps all live to a certain age. Now, here's a big idea for everybody. I think this isn't a really great place to live, and maybe we don't all need to live till 85. Action. When we then talk about health, we're also talking about complex systems that we're all aware of, largely capitalism, that feed these ideas and these ideals, largely built on patriarchy. I told you, we're going to do the P word a couple of times.
We're ready.
That they feed this idea that somehow because you're fat, you're unhealthy. Now, these are outdated ideals about data. This idea of a body mass index that, honestly, doctors tell you it's sort of ridiculous, but it's the system that is used to measure. So, how can we sit here and say, as a fat person, you're unhealthy because you take my blood today, and depending on what exercise I've done, what I've ate this week, compared to what happens next week, there'll be completely different things. Now, you can't choose or say or dictate what my lifestyle is based on my weight. Now, I'm not also going to sit up here and be like, as a fat person, I'm the most healthiest person in the room. But we can't make these judgments. But I really feel strongly that this has got to be the last time we answer this question. Because as people of size, fat people, chubby chuckers, whatever you want to rebrand it as, we are constantly asked this question, and what it does, it derails the argument.
Brilliant.
It allows an argument to be told, but it doesn't allow us to actually engage in this idea that actually what people want to say to us is, you are unhealthy. But instead of acting it as a question, they want to say it as a statement, and as a statement, it's violent.
I couldn't agree with that.
Put your hands together for that point, please.
with that, and I think, you know, when people talk about health, why do we always think about physical health? Why do we always eliminate emotional health, mental health, and psychological? And it's so unfair. Just you basically hit the nail on the head. But again, it's the only thing that people, trolls in particular, can come forward and get us with. I'm tired of answering the same question in every interview, any platform that I go on to, because that is literally the only question that they can ask you and think that they'll have an argument, but they haven't.
My social media handle is completely aimed about that. Mine is Scotty is fat. Because then if people try and come for me and be like, yeah, but you're fat, it's like, well, the clue's in the name.
At the end of the day, like, because I'm not fat, if I was to smoke like 50 cigarettes a day or drink excessively every single night, nobody would say a single thing to me. They would just say, oh, okay, you're having a good time, this and that kind of thing. But if I did all those things or none of those things and was just fat, then everyone would start having an issue. People would start making statements. People would be like, oh, you're not very healthy, are you? You know, what's going on? Why is that the case? And it's just literally because of how I look on the exterior. And that's ridiculous. You know? Why is it different between one person and the other? And the other person could be healthy or unhealthy. It doesn't even matter. So it's just, yeah.
No, definitely. I think we all have a responsibility at the end of the day. You should do what is right for your body. If you want to lose weight, go ahead, lose weight. If you want to carry on with your lifestyle, carry on with your lifestyle. You have to be responsible for what you are doing. It's your own action. And just exactly how you said, Rishi, at the end of the day, I'm a strict vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian since birth. I have never drank alcohol in my life. I have never smoked in my life. This year I don't even eat fish or egg, but that's my spiritual sort of requirement. And people look at me and say I'm unhealthy. I've lost a lot of weight recently, and people still call me fat, but they don't look at, like, you know, you've lost it, that's really good, and it's the same people. Like, when I was fat, it's like, oh my God, you're so obese, you're so fat, you're gonna die. And then now I've lost so much weight, not for them, I've done it for myself. And people are still like, oh my God, you're so fat, why are you losing weight? So it's like, you can't be happy there, and you can't be happy here to let me live.
A conversation, sorry, just to jump in on that I am willing to have is one about ecology.
Yeah.
Is one that if people want to talk about, like, being a fat person, are you using up more resources? Are you this or that or the other? I want to have that conversation and be like, yeah, but like, be a vegetarian. That's literally, that is an act in itself that could change the planet. So I think there are arguments that I'm willing to have, but the one about health is one that I'm just like, oh.
People aren't educated about it, and they think that they are, and that's why they just boom, boom, you know, throw all these statements at you as such, and they think that they're right, but they're not. They're ridiculous. They're so flawed. But you can't.
Sorry, Lottie, I feel like you've got a point to make.
Oh, sorry,
Let's bring in Lottie.
Okay. I just wanted to talk a bit about the actual word fat and the connotations behind that word, because let's just face it, it's a word and it has descriptive tendencies to it. But because people use that word as an attack on other people, we start to put negative connotations behind it, and that's just wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. It's just a thing. People are fat, just like people are tall, just like, you know, people can run fast, you know, that kind of thing. But there's also this kind of extra negativity when we talk about whether someone, well, in our terms, we call them good fats and bad fats. And a good fat is someone who goes, yeah, I'm fat, but I go to the gym. It's fine. I'm on a diet. It's okay. I'm trying to lose it. And a bad fat is someone like me who just sits here and goes, "Yeah, I'm fat, mate. That's who I am, and that's what I do. I like cheeseburgers."
The worst is the words, though. You know, like,
Yes.
I like fat because it's direct, and much better than someone said that I'm fat rather than larger than life. That's the one that boils me. Like, you're so bubbly.
Yeah. I think curvy, sexy-licious was a word that was used by a very prominent plus-size model at some point. Won't mention her name. But I think, we need to stop trying to call fat what it is in a different term. People have fat. We are fat. Like, let's own the word. Let's reclaim it and feel good about it, because it's nothing really in the grand scheme of things, unless you want to use it as a powerful identity, which we do. Some of these people on this stage don't do. Like, I love the word. I use it often to describe who I am, and I hate it when people look at me and go, "But babe, you're not fat."
Yeah.
It's like age. Fatness and age are very similar, because what happens is you tell somebody you're fat or that you're a certain age, And the public are like, no, I'm not convinced. No, you're not 59. No, you're not that. Even if you can be like, I am in control of this, I'm telling you. And I've had people that say, I can't say your Twitter handle, or I can't say this or that or the other because I feel like it's offensive. So I feel like we have got to have this conversation about language, but I think this language doesn't need to be, see, I find the difficult like softening of like plus size or curve ranges. I'm like, just call it your fat range. It's like, or you just extend your normal range. Like, why do you have to make a whole load of tops with butterflies on that are just for women of size? Why can't it just be that we just extend clothes?
So Scott, are you kind of talking about a separation here? So we've got a range, a general range, and we're making a separate range. And not only are we making a separate range, we're going to put prints on them that we probably never would for any other range. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm saying that throughout society, what happens is, and I can tell you this as a fat body that navigates public space, you're constantly othered. So a benefit of fatness that I quite often talk about is there's always a seat free next to me on the tube or the train or the bus. Because people other fatness. So it's easier if we make a different collection over here and that you don't become normative. These words that people like us to be part of the mainstream. You're not normative, so you're going to be outside the mainstream. So we'll make you your own thing. We won't sit next to you because who knows, your cholesterol might be catching. It's this whole idea that if we distance you from the truth, what happens is we tell the truth. We are there going, this is a body, this is what it looks like, and yes, it can wear a blouse, etc. And that is frightening, especially cisgendered men are very frightened of my presence because not only do I derail this idea of body aesthetic, which is like, you know, because apparently going to the gym is an acceptable addiction, but not looking like this is an acceptable addiction, but I also threaten the masculinities, okay? And so what we need to keep on talking about, and men and cisgendered heterosexual men, cisgendered white heterosexual middle-class men in this room will feel attacked, and they just need to feel attacked for a while because we have got to talk about the normative, the hegemonic, which controls us, controls all of us in this room to a certain extent, and doesn't allow us to be accepted truly. And I think these conversations are really complex because they always are shut down because of these complex systems that I spoke about.
It's a good point. A question I wanted to ask, because I guess what you're saying is about putting emotions to one side for people who seem to be seen as acceptable to have real conversations. I was just wondering, so you're all activists on the panel, you're involved in body positivity, and I'm probably conscious there's a lot of young people out there who are watching this, and I understand that you're probably tired of having this health conversation, but for a lot of young people, they're probably watching this saying, I hear this every day. So would you have any advice for young people watching who are really struggling with the way people treat them, the way people perceive them, the way not just their peers talk to them, but their family talks to them, the way social media talks to them? I guess it's kind of their environment.
I guess it's kind of like doing as much as they can to sort of put themselves in a good environment, going on places like Instagram, but going on the good pages, the ones that are more accepting, following the right kind of people, and just sort of learning from that and also getting that message out there to everybody else. So like we were saying before, like using the word fat, it just shakes everything. Like people are just like, whoa, you said fat, like what's going on kind of thing. But really, it's a really normal thing. It's just a descriptive word. And that's not to say like go say it to somebody who's fat that they're fat, because obviously they might not know that terminology behind it, but just to use it more in conversation, just to kind of be a bit more, you know, okay with that terminology and things like that. It would just kind of change the way society looks at things and hopefully bring it to the right kind of place.
I think terminology is a really key thing, actually, because one of the things that I often try and remind myself is that people are at different stages of body positivity. Like, just because I'm sat here and I'm totally cool with my body, there'll be people in this room that still go like and make jokes at the fact that they're fat, or they'll be like, oh, I'll just have one more crisp, and oh, you know, I've had 15 biscuits today, I can't possibly have another crisp. And it's those kind of conversations that are kind of the budding start of body positivity. They're kind of those little questions that people are asking themselves in their brain where they're like, I'm going to make fun of this because then it makes it easier for me. But there's a different way that you can think about yourself. There's a different way that you can think about your body. No matter what stage you're at in body positivity. I think I always say that my body positivity started with a decision that I made for myself that I was just going to be kinder. I was just going to be kinder about who I was. And when you make that decision, whenever you have a wobble, whenever you have a bad day, because we all have them, I have them, I had one this morning, putting this dress on. Like whenever you have a bad day, you always reflect back on that decision, and you always reflect and go, I made a decision to myself to be kinder, so I need to remember that, and I need to keep going with that. And I think that's a bit of advice that I would give to anybody, anyone in this room, whatever stage of body positivity you're at, whatever conversation you're having with yourself, just remember you've made a decision to change, and you've made a decision to be kinder.
Curate your own, we talk a lot about echo chambers online, and we talk about them as being negatives. And actually, if you are that child in a remote part of the country that hasn't got a queer icon, who can't see other POC queer people around them, who act as like icons or role models for them, like curate that online, like follow us and you will be given a beautiful feed of other people, and we can signpost you to other people. But actively seek other people who are also othered. Like, you gotta get beyond, like for me, I've made an active choice a couple of years ago that I've got to get beyond queerness and fatness and meet other people who are othered. We've got to have conversations with each other, because that cliche of together we're stronger, but those who are othered, when we're together, we are stronger. That's where I think the real strength is.
I think if one piece of advice I could give to myself if I was a child is, at the end of the day, I'm not created or made to please somebody else. And at the end of the day, you could be the ripest and the juiciest apple, and there'll always be somebody who doesn't like apples. It's simple as that. You know, we are not made to satisfy somebody else. We've got to be happy with ourselves. And at the end of the day, people never are going to be happy. There will always be something. You lose weight, it'll be, oh, I don't like your nose. What are you going to do? Go and get nose surgery or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Where do you draw the line? So you just got to stop pleasing other people.
I was just wondering, is there anything in particular you've done for yourself to create an environment that works for you emotionally and for yourself, Ashamba?
Me personally, I just do whatever I want to do. I don't allow someone to tell me that I can't do it. If I want to eat that cake, I'm going to eat that cake. Simple. And I don't know, like, what do you do? I've just decided that I am not going to surrender myself to other people to make them happy. That could be in any choice in my life. That could be from my career to my body positive movement. You know, I'm going to be me. You like it, great, watch it. You don't like it, I can't give a shit that you don't like it. Off you go, off my page.
Nicely said.
But it's literally is the way it is. And I think, especially being a South Asian woman, it's hard enough being a woman anyway, but then being an Asian woman, it fucking hell is double hard. Especially in today's economic climate. And I'm done with having no role models. I have no one I could look up to, and it sounds so cliche. The only person that I could look up to was my mother, because she was the only round woman that I know, and who was brown. There's nobody. And I want representation in media, and I just think that we've come a long way as a community, and we've got so much more to do yet.
I do, and have done some, props.
Well said, Ashamba.
I think you have to utilise the skills that you have. I'm an artist, so for 4 years I curated and created a project called Hamburger Queen, a beauty pageant and talent show for fat people that anyone can enter who identifies as a fat person. And it's a night of celebration of fatness, and that led on to a Radio 4 documentary called My Big Fat Documentary. And this idea that, like, okay, I know how to put on a show and put on a little turn, so I'm going to take over a little gay bar in South London and create this cult thing. And the more that we create these little worlds, the more that those then go and transcend to things like Radio 4, the more we do find this representation. But I think we do have to be activists. We do have to, because they're not going to hand over power. They're not going to freely go, oh, would you like some representation? Of course, please, because the representation I see...
Are you talking about taking the space rather than
I'm talking about the fact that we see a mortgage, like bank companies now, put on their mortgage posters is like two white, able-bodied, middle-class men holding hands at a distance. So, you know, just to let you know, at distance. And that somehow tells me that, like, gayness is now represented in the media. No, it's not. That's not the representation. We're actually looking for proper representation. And not proportionate. I want ill-proportionate representation, actually, because there's been thousands of years where how to look at images and nuclear families which do not reflect back to me. And I find that I totally hear what you're saying about not having a role model, and having someone to look up to is so useful.
Totally. I mean, my personal journey, I started in 2014, you know, and the fact that in 2014 we're only now seeing Britain's first Asian plus size model, I don't give a shit. I bang on about it 24/7, and I've made my own hashtag about it, and I'm going to be proud of it because it's my achievement.
Tell them,
do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Literally, and that's how I feel about it. And if I'm not going to stand up for myself, by the way, no brands support me hardly, no influencers come forward and said, you know what, Bishamba, I support your story. Literally how I feel, and I'm frustrated and I don't give a shit if I offend anyone about it. It's like two people, I read this, and it's like me sitting in an exam, and then we've got a white model, for example, sitting in an exam. We both sit the same exam, I fail, but the person, the white model who's copied me, she will pass. That's how I feel invisible, I feel totally underrepresented, and I totally feel bypassed. And why should I feel that? And I've got to go through that struggle so other women like me can come forward. We're the second largest population in the world. I come from an Indian heritage. Where do we represent? Nowhere. Literally nowhere. How sad is that? And if I don't make the way, how is somebody else going to say, you know what, thanks to her, I made success. I'm not doing this for myself, I'm doing it so other women like me can come forward and actually say, you know what, thank you Bishamba for giving us that platform, you made it, and now we're going to make it even more further than you, but thanks to you.
I wanted to say, I just wanted to ask you a question, Lush. But to round up what you said, Bishamba, what I want to say is, this is what this space is for, and I really appreciate you bringing your raw emotion. This is what this is about.
Totally.
You know, sometimes I think we really doctor, we stop ourselves saying what we really feel, and we hold back our emotions for fear of being seen in a particular way. But this is what this is about today. People need to hear this.
No, definitely, and I'm so glad that we can all come together on this platform and do that, and thanks to Hernam obviously for allowing us to do that, because I'm tired of can't even say the word properly, you know, when you're tiptoeing around people. I'm tired of tiptoeing, and I don't give a shit if if people just, okay fine, you're going to be offended, fuck you, I don't give a shit, you're offended.
Oh, I love you.
I don't give a shit.
Rishi, what I wanted to ask is, I know body positivity and loving yourself comes in many different forms. So I'm just wondering, just to follow on from what everyone else has added to the panel, do you have any perspective?
Yeah, I guess my perspective is a little bit different to what everyone's experienced, because I have been very fortunate to be quite privileged in most aspects in terms of like my body and upbringing and things like that. So there's a very different side of things that I've kind of experienced, but with that also means that I've seen a different perspective. So I've kind of gone like a lot of my life just kind of being rather blasé, like, oh, you know, life's not so bad, you know, what's going on? Like, and then when it sort of clicks, then you kind of think, oh wow, hang on a second, all those adverts have white cis males on, and there's no other representation for other people. We were watching Postman Pat, and Pat was saying, oh, I haven't put on weight, have I? As if it was a really bad thing. And we're like, well, hang on, it's even kids' programs and stuff that are doing these kind of things. And it happens all the time, and it happens on TV, it happens on adverts, it happens when you're just walking down the street. At work, there's a lot of women who, like you were saying, they're talking about how much they can eat, how much they can't eat, calories, slimming well, sins, points, this, and it happens all the time. So it really just goes to show how much there is to do, but you know, also how much we're going forward with this movement as well.
I agree, Rishi, and we're not aware. Like I said, I work in child protection, and I have worked with children and cases where basically 5-year-old kids are depressed. How sad is that? This is literally our younger generation. This is what we are doing, and if we're not going to be able to come forward and say, you know what, actually, I'm responsible for this, but I'm going to put it right in our own way, then seriously, we can't blame the younger generation for being screwed.
Your mum's calling you.
I know. That's right.
You should answer and be like, I'm in the middle of something.
Start swearing in Punjabi or something.
I hope she's watching online, you know?
Probably is.
I was just wondering if you've considered, because you kind of touched on social media and kind of media programs and children. I'm just wondering, what role do you think that plays, the social media and the media play, in terms of cultivating an environment for young people that isn't healthy and isn't comfortable and doesn't tell them to love themselves?
It's the way it's going, isn't it? So like that everything is, it's a digital age, everything is going towards the internet and social media and those kind of online platforms. So naturally, everything that children and teenagers, etc., will do will be geared towards what they see in front of the computer screen, on the phone screen. So it is our responsibility to try and do as much as we can to change that perception and to try and move things into a more positive light.
I think to answer the question explicitly, what has it done? And if we talk about the hegemony, ooh, big word, I probably said a bit wrong. It has created extreme trauma. It's created trauma that lives on in our lives, which make me behave when I'm unaware in a horrible way to other people. It makes me behave in a way where I become depressed myself. It makes me behave in a way that I do say those things of like, oh, do I look a little bit fat in that? Or, oh, is that a bit gay? Like that, and that stuff is not my fault. That's not the stuff that I have to work on. That's the trauma that's been imposed on me. And so to answer it directly, it's created a lot of pain, a lot of anger, and a lot of fear, and a lot of othering.
I appreciate you bringing this up actually, because it sort of moves on to my next point. So we're talking about loving thyself, and we're talking about body positivity. I think what you've also touched on, identifying trauma, is mental health. And I think sometimes that's often overlooked. I think people talk about the perception of self and maybe how you feel within yourself, but a lot of people sort of dance around the fact that this can very deeply impact your mental health through trauma. So I just wonder if any of you have got anything to say about that or anything to add.
Loads.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Lottie
All
first.
the time.
Go ahead, Lottie.
It's weird when you follow people on social media. You get their best of, don't you? You don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff. One of the things I really try to do when I'm on social media is talk about my down days. I have anxiety. I have really bad anxiety sometimes where I just can't get out of bed because I'm too nervous. I'm too scared of what people are going to say about me, about what people might be saying behind my back, you know, all that kind of stuff. And social media has given us this ability to put across our best selves to everybody else in the room, everybody else that's looking at you. And it's like this echo chamber of who can do something better than you, who can, you know, look the best way, who's drinking the most fucking fit teas, you know, that kind of thing. And I think it's really important for people, especially influencers and people that have that platform, to talk about their down days, talk about how their humanity is not being shown on their social media, because that's just such an important thing. And I think being positive about who you are is one thing, and that's brilliant, but you also have to be positive about your negative days, which sounds like a bit of a weird thing to say, but you do, because it's about being real. It's about saying, do you know what, I couldn't get out of bed today, I couldn't even shower because I just couldn't do it, but I went up and I went and got a drink of water because my body needed nourishment at that point, and I'm celebrating that. And you celebrate the small things, you just have to. And I think social media is kind of bad at doing that. And we kind of focus on all the good, amazing, wonderful things, like I've got a new dress, I've got a new blouse, whatever. Yeah, we just need to get better at it.
No, I agree, and Lottie, that it's so important, because people at the end of the day need to know that you're human. You're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days, and it just annoys me to another level, in particular when people, you know, we're talking about mental health, for example. It's something that I've only recently been able to speak about it. When I was 10 years old, I came from a community where constantly I was body shamed, to the point where, when growing up as a child, people would tell me, you know what, Vishamba, no one's going to marry you, you're too fat. This is very common. Till this day, it happens in India, Middle Eastern cultures, and Far East as well. And I was constantly reminded, and I was trapped in this cycle where I was constantly eating, because I'm an emotional eater, gaining more weight. Not even my family members, ladies at the local temple, for example, people in my community felt it was their right to come up to me and tell me, you know what, we found this one guy, you're really pretty by the way in your face, but oh, you're a bit too fat, but I don't know if he's going to like you, bearing in mind I'm a magistrate, I do everything else, I'm successful in every other field in my life, but I'm not good enough for him. Simply based on how I look.
Again, right?
Literally, and it frustrated to another level. And growing up, I attempted suicide at the age of 10 years old. And the way I attempted suicide, and I can only now openly talk about it, is by mixing shampoo and bubble bath together in a glass of water and thinking that it was going to kill me. I did that so innocently, like literally makes me want to cry inside when I talk about it. Because at the end of the day, what must I have been going through as a 10-year-old child to go through that? No one deserves that. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why it's so important that I talk about it so openly in front of other people, because at the end of the day, nobody should have to go through that. Yeah. And people need to know. People need to know that you have this struggle, and I reach my peak, and I do really well. And obviously I want people to see the best in me. That's why I show the best in me, but also I'm a human being, and I have my shit times too. And I think you just have to be real. You just literally got to be real.
I think, thank you for showing that. That was really personal.
Yeah, thank you.
I think what we also need to recognise is when we talk about mental health, there's this onus on us that we're responsible for it. And again, I don't want to be the person that brings up the P word again, but we do have to recognise that actually there is a lot of research into historical, into ancestral, into hereditary trauma and depressions, that the horrific things that our families have gone through, that then we carry with ourselves. The horrific things that members of our community have gone through, that we carry in ourselves. So, you know, explicitly for me, coming from an Irish family, fleeing from like basic poverty and famine, coming to this country, for my queer people who, like, up until 50 years ago were imprisoned for loving people that they loved. You carry this trauma with you, and this embodies itself in you. And so we have to have big grown-up conversations about colonialism and patriarchy, and about that role in our fears, in our depression, and in our traumas.
This brings us nicely to a question that we've got in on Slido. So Jay has said, did you have a moment of enlightenment? No, sorry, let me go start with Antonia, then we'll move on to Jay. So Antonia kind of touches on mental health, and she says, how do you keep up the good mental health work when you're physically exhausted?
Just got to do it. That's the way I look at it. Sometimes I just literally cannot face the world because I'm so frustrated. But then I think to myself, well, I'm not going to do it. Who else is going to do it? No one else is going to open the door for me. No one else is going to pave the way for me. I have got to fight my own battle. It's as simple as that. And you have to find that willpower within you. It's so hard. Like, what miracle answer are you going to give to that? Oh, I do X, Y, Z. You've just got to find it inside you.
But I think I think the reality is mental health is a state, and maybe it's something that kind of, it's an all-encompassing state. So for a lot of people, it's not as easy as saying, okay, I'll just get up and do it. So I guess the question is, what tips do you have for somebody who is physically exhausted to the point where they don't feel like they're able to look after their mental health?
I think for me, when I get to that point, because I do get to that point often, but when I get to that point, I just let myself feel it. Yeah. I think that's such an important thing, is to just let yourself feel it, be in the moment, because if you don't recognise that, and if you don't recognise that you are in a bad period, then you won't be able to not even pull yourself out of it. You won't be able to ask for help. You won't be able to talk to other people about how you're feeling, because you'll just be trying to ignore it, and that's the worst thing. You 100% have to be able to talk about it, recognise it, and move on from it. However you do that, and like I said earlier on, recognise the small things in your day that pulls you out of those things. Recognise that even the act of taking a shower is a huge thing to do when you're depressed, when you're suffering with anxiety, when you're having a tough time. Doing those small things is just such a huge part of that self-love journey, and being able to recognise that.
So identifying your achievements,
yes.
I guess, what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think also we have a very weird relationship with mental health presentations in this country, where there's this expected journey that you will medicate for a certain amount of time, and then you'll slowly wean yourself off it. I don't know any other mental presentation or illness in which, like, someone's got diabetes, you go, off the insulin yet? Yeah. Do you know, those models are there, actually can be helpful. They're not the be all and end all, but they can be helpful. But the way we talk about mental health presentations, the stigma attached to admitting those things, and the stigma attached still to being like, I'm in therapy, and you can just see people unravel in their head, like, why are you in therapy? You know, that internal dialogue. We haven't got to that point where I think a lot of the other places in the world
might help too.
I'm going there because I think there might be easier. Where the other countries in the world have, and I'm thinking more of North America, where they have that relationship where people are very fluid about their mental health presentations, and fluid about their therapy.
Something I've got from what both of you have said is, I guess, it's being in a space where you're able to ask for help. So if you can't cope on your own and you are too tired, having a voice to say, I'm struggling right now, to somebody that's willing to listen.
Yeah, I think, sorry. Just another thing as well, there's something called Mental Health First Aid. There's an organisation called Mental Health First Aid England, who help people, or train people to recognise the first signs of mental health trauma and having a bad time. And I think sometimes, although I talked about being able to bring yourself out of that kind of thing, the onus also shouldn't be on the person experiencing the trauma to ask for help. There should be people or family members or support networks that can recognise that. And I think not that I don't work for Mental Health First Aid England, just going to throw that out there. But I think one of the things that they do is train people to recognise those symptoms, and it's just such a great thing. So if you're sat in the audience and you're thinking about how you can help somebody that has mental health trauma, that is going through tough times, go and check that out, because it won't always be easy for the person experiencing that to tell you.
Fantastic,
and you have to draw that out of them sometimes.
Thank you, Lottie. I know Rishi wanted to say something.
Yeah, so mental health plays a big role in our household, and it can completely affect everything, you know, whether it's just for a day, whether it's for weeks, months, and I think the important thing is, like we were saying, is to try and get some help, to sort of be a little bit vulnerable and say, you know what, I actually do need a bit of help. And there may not necessarily be the people around to do it, so you could even start by doing it on social media, just even whether it's like posting on Instagram, just kind of saying how you actually feel. Because as you were saying before, it's kind of like a highlight reel, the social media. You don't often see what people are actually feeling and what they're actually going through. And you know, the support isn't really there, and the funding isn't really there when it comes to comparison with physical health. Like if you hate yourself physically, people would be like eagerly willing to help you and stuff. If you say you're mentally not too well, or that is what's happening with you, then it's just not seen as a very big deal. It's the actual importance of it isn't seen as a big deal. So you need to, I guess, you need to try whatever you can to get the help and show your vulnerability.
It's probably in some ways brings us on to our final question from the audience. Because what I'm getting from what you've all been saying is, in terms of body positivity, embracing yourself and mental health, they're all journeys. So you find yourself on a journey, and I guess it's about those steps that you take to make that journey or that state better for you. So we've got a question in from Jay, and Jay asks, did you have a moment of enlightenment when you realised it was time to love yourself, or was you always confident in your own skin?
I would say, compared to the average person, I was probably relatively comfortable in my own skin. But that's where I kind of realised that there's a lot of other people that need help, and I wanted to create my platform to kind of say, hey, you know, I may be in a rather privileged position, but there are a lot of people who aren't, and there's a lot of people who I can help. And through learning from others and through exploring it myself, there's a lot of things I can do to help other people, especially like I was saying, geared a little bit more towards other men, because there's not as much information out there for them. So the actual act of realising that there's something going on with respect to body positivity, that was a moment of enlightenment. But in terms of how I actually felt, I guess I already, wasn't in a good position.
I don't love myself. Let's be honest. Like it doesn't suddenly, like, I just didn't wake up and I'm like, wow, that's it, it's happened. Like, it's an ongoing dialogue. And there are some days where you don't want to leave the house because of the public pressure and the judgment that is made on your body when you look in when you're othered. I use othered because it's something that's enforced on you. You don't enforce it on yourself, believe me. And so, what I guess that, like, the thing that I find really tough is when we're talking about body positivity, it's somehow like we have this dialogue that somehow we've tipped over, and now we're in this new room and it's brilliant. Some days I do find it hard. Other days, like today, where I'm looking really gorgy, I look at myself in the mirror, and I tell you, I say to myself things like, yeah, I would. And it's true. It's true. But we've got to accept the days when you're like, no, I wouldn't. And I think we can't just say this rhetoric like it's happened and we're in the brilliant room, welcome to judges' houses. It doesn't work like that. We don't know who I am.
You're still in the first rounds, not in the judges.
I think as well as that, you don't have to completely love yourself. There is nothing wrong with just being a bit indifferent as well. Like, if sometimes you do feel love yourself and sometimes you don't, even just kind of having like,
body positivity isn't a destination, it's a journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a meme.
We've got a few minutes left. I was just wondering if anyone in the audience had any questions. This is the awkward moment when no one puts their hand up. You know it goes right.
Everyone's just very hot.
Anyone stick your hand up if you do? Right, do you want me to, I'm going to bring the mic. I feel like this is the Ricky Lake show if anyone's old enough to remember.
It's more Trisha to tell you the truth.
So sweet, tell us. So do you want to ask your question?
I would like to ask if you could recommend other people. Whose is this? Is this your phone?
It's not mine.
It's my phone.
If you could recommend the audience
to also follow other people that you think are really positive, that promote something different, someone else out of your circle that doesn't represent something about you or what you follow, who would you each recommend?
Mine's very easy. Mine is someone called Thyself, who is an amazing trans feminine artist, maker, writer, cutie pop human being, who has taught me a lot about the POC experience and the queer and trans POC experience, which is completely different to my experience, and being able to teach me how to listen when we're discussing whiteness and not having to feel like I have to contribute. So Travis Alabanta.
I think in the same vein as yours, mine's the Slumflower. If you guys follow her, she is, oh my, she's taught me so much about myself and my privilege and who I am, whilst also being unapologetically her and being there for so many black women. I just love her, and she just rocks everything that she does. She really does.
My answer is a little bit biased in that my inspiration is Self-Love Club, Millie over here. But as, like, an unbiased answer would be Megan, Body Positive Panda, because that was Millie's inspiration. And I think a lot of people start seeing her stuff around and then kind of, you know, maybe spread out a little bit from there. So I think she has a really big...
I think for me, I'm going to be really straight up and honest about it. I don't feel that inspired by many people, if that makes sense. There's not anyone in particular, apart from you, my love. Just generally, like, I'll be sitting here and lying to you if I said, oh yes, I really like that person. I haven't felt that I can connect to that particular person, if that makes sense. So yeah, I struggle with that. I can't sit here and give you one particular person because there isn't one.
Thank you. I saw a question towards the back. Who had their hands up? Right. So this is going to be acrobatics. So support me here.
I'm going to time you on this. I hope you...
Please do.
As you can.
Here's the mic.
I wanted to know if Slotty wanted my fan.
I get really hot all the time and I'm really conscious of like sweating and stuff, and it works.
Can I like the fan?
I love it. No, to me, please, Richie, I'm here.
Any other questions before we round up?
Behind you.
I heard my name. Harnum, the person who brought this all together. Right, I'm going to disappear and come back again. Surprise!
Okay. So, do you think that someone who suffers with severe mental health issues can love themselves and be body confident?
100% yes. 100% yes. And I think, for me, I keep talking about my own personal journey, I'm sorry about that, but for me, my mental health problems aren't severe, but sometimes they can be bordering on it. And it's actually the positivity that I have about myself that has brought me out from some of those dark moments and has brought me out of those moments where I just feel like I can't do anything. I again think back to that decision I made for myself where I was like, no, I'm going to be kinder to myself. And that's not just about my body and how I look. It's about my mind too. Like, I need to be kinder to myself and who I am. And I actually think body positivity is kind of key for somebody who's going through mental health trauma. And yeah.
I want to live in that world, and I want to say yes. But I think there's so many other things at play, and I guess specifically I'm thinking of people who have presentations of schizophrenia and how that young black men are proportionately, there's a much higher rate. So there are other huge systems at play which contribute to mental health presentations. And so I want to live in the world where I can say, yeah, great, it would be brilliant, because that's utopianism, right? But I just know there is like so many other horrid, nasty things at play that actually bring that stuff to the forefront to people. And so it's difficult. It's difficult to answer that with a binary, I think.
Yeah, it's so complex. And I think I'm very guilty of thinking that mental health is as black and white as depression, anxiety, and things that we hear about in the media. But you're so right. There's things like schizophrenia, psychosis that are so complex, that have so many different facets to them, that it isn't as simple as just body positivity, throwing yourself out of that
It might, it might not necessarily be a bad thing though, like as in, if it's something that might not apply, it is still something that would positively affect everybody else. But yeah, of course there would be exceptions as to people who might not be able to benefit from it. But I would still say it should be something that is available to everybody because it doesn't seem like it's something that could harm anybody, could only benefit or do nothing kind of thing.
I'm not on the panel, but I guess it's important to identify as well is if you do have a mental health diagnosis, just because you've got the same diagnosis as somebody else, it may affect you differently. So different people, you know, they experience things at different extremes. Depression for one person is completely different for somebody else, in the same way anxiety is and schizophrenia is. Before we wrap up, I thought, have you got a question? Excellent. Yeah, I'm going to hand you the mic.
You have to ask it like a poem.
No, I'm sitting down, I'm just an audience member now. But when we talk about mental health, I know a lot of it, we're kind of taking responsibility for it. But sometimes, as you said, it is the trauma and it is the product of big corporations and the things we eat, the things we kind of digest and stuff. So are we now making other people, should we start making other people accountable for what they are doing to like our generations? Instead of talking about what you do, are there campaigns out there to kind of shut down sort of certain corporations? If there are some, can you like let us know where they are so we can like shut them down?
The problem is those corporations often have people on the board who are on the front bench in the Commons. Those, those huge, difficult, multinational offshore companies have allies that are responsible for our legislation. And so to try and destable that power, or to topple that power, we have to completely cleanse the whole political system. And that is tough, because why? They've made robust laws to help themselves survive. Yeah. So there are activisms that are happening. There are really brilliant activisms that are happening in the world. A brilliant one was a group of artists who weren't very happy with a multinational company trying to navigate and not be litigious here, or an oil company, who were funding arts and a major art gallery in the world, and being really dancing around it in a really nice way. And they created performances which were protests where they would go to the gallery and throw oil in the gallery and destroy pieces of work. So activism on that level does work, but it does work by just like being grassroots on Twitter and like really getting on the nerves of helpline Twitter desks and bringing things to the forefront. You know, I'm constantly talking to plus size brands online and being like, why can't I get changed in any of your stores? Why am I not allowed to get changed in a closed fitting room? So even on that small level where we're kind of like pushing gender agenda and gender utopias, but on a major level where we're being activists. But it's tough because those people in power don't want to share it or hand it over because power is attractive.
So, as we're rounding up, I just want you to give a round of applause for everybody on the panel. Amazingly done. Okay, we've got desserts outside. I think that would be good to let you all know. But what I did want to say is, do you want to tell everyone what your social media handles are so they can find you?
I am super shit on Twitter, just because I don't like it, but it's Bisham Bidas. It's a bit of a long name. And also you can find me on Instagram on Bisham Bidas as well, and you can find me on Facebook as Bisham Bidas too.
I'm Scotty is fat on everything. And it's spelled SCOTTEE, just because I like to be contrary.
I'm Lottie_Lamour on Twitter and Lottie Lamour on Instagram, and my blog is lottielamour.co.uk.
Positivity Popper on Instagram, and that's pretty much it.
So for those of you watching at home, I'm going to do that TV bit. For those of you watching at home, the live stream will be back in 15 minutes with a performer and singer. And for those of you that are here, we'd like you to come back at 8:45, and there's some nibbles outside. Well done. Right guys, we're about to start. That sounds loud, wow. Welcome back. I've not got my glasses on, you know, fashion first. It feels a bit boy bandy, don't it? I thought that should be safe. How do people find the first half? Amazing. Are you feeling amped up? Good. Are you full on snacks and alcohol? And for those of you that don't drink hot water and juice, excellent. So we're going to open up the second half with a singer. Yeah, can we have a bit more like? Excellent. Give me some time to actually look at the running order. So yeah, I'd like to welcome Rachel Chinariri to the stage.
One, two. Oh, yes, it's working. Hello, guys.
I'm not back in singing, so I'm gonna.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hey. My name is Rachel Chinariri. So that is chin, our, O-U-R, our group, and then I-R-I, just got to remember that at the end. But yeah, Rachel Chinariri, and that's Rachel with one E. So I am 18, I'm from Bristol. I'm going to be performing 4 original tracks, which I've made over the last 2 years. The first one is called 4 Chords from my EP, Bedroom Tales. And here we have my guitarist, Kane. Kane is wicked, guys, I promise you, it's like the best guitarist on the planet, so shout out to Kane. Alright, when you're ready, Kane. Students, so in the original track there's loads of voices of people speaking to loved ones and explaining how much they love people, and love is a very vital thing which we need more of in this world, so hopefully my lyrics can speak to someone in this room today. And just know that whatever you do Won't even remember our younger days. So my darling, my baby, my boo. You are my best friend. You are my best friend. Remember, I'll always love you. All my original tracks are on SoundCloud as well, so that was part of my second EP. I make all my songs in my bedroom, so never limit yourself, guys. Anything's possible. So the next two songs are going to come from my project called Another Land. I made Another Land by myself in Brit School. I covered the floor in petals, had everyone singing, dancing. It was sweet. So this first song is called Broken Hearted. Remembering days when we cuddled to sleep. Thinking of times when it's just you and me. Losing the love that I thought would that end. And we're falling apart, let's just not pretend. Had me waiting for time, I'm losing my sleep, my eyes open wide. I'm fighting for me, I'm feeling to cry, struggling to eat as time's going by. You ain't calling for me, I called you again. You're texting my friends, I'm here all alone, 'cause your boys are an end. I'm feeling so weak, bruised on my knees now. Physical pain is hurting me. Are we trading places? Tell me when your life's free, baby. Sorry, 'cause my heart is sinking. Is this really love we're faking? Seeing all the fights we started, love we would have never, ever, ever, ever wanted. Don't we all painting our lives like artists? I'm just waiting to be broken, waiting to be broken hearted. Waiting to be broken hearted. I am waiting to be, waiting to be. I'm just waiting to be, waiting to be. Baby, are we trading places? Tell me when your life's free, baby. Only 'cause my heart is aching. Is this really love we're faking? Seeing all the fights we've started, love we would have never wanted. Painting our lives like artists. I'm just waiting to be, waiting to be broken hearted. hands were shaking and all, so you know, lots of lovely. Last track is called Running. It's a bit more cheerful, but this was from my Another Land project as well. And I hope you guys like it. Shout outs to Kane, like absolutely amazing. So, he's amazing, guys. Just watch out for him. But yeah, ready, Kane? Last track, here we go. Running. Listen to the sunlight made, seeing if you said okay. Singing them loud, I look through the crowd. I am fighting the struggles I see. Open wounds will bleed. Climbing the mountains today, running from heartache and tears and pain. I'm fighting, know that I'm fighting. Realized I'm writing, realized I'm running. Running from the truth, baby. I realized I'm running. I see that we're coming. Oh, the truth comes back to haunt me. Linger like the summer's breeze, hoping that it's worth it. I skid-a-da-da-dum, hoping that you had your very own fun. And skid-a-da-da-day, hoping the day goes by okay with you by my side. And I'm running. And I'm running. Oh, the truth comes back to haunt me. And skidoo-da-da-dum, hope you had your fun, baby. Thank you very much, guys. My name is Rachel Chinariri, Rachel with one E. Chinariri, gonna go through this together. Chin like your chins. Our, because we share music together. Our, then I, just gotta remember it at the end. We've got Kane, who was the amazing guitarist. And I just wanna thank you, I wanna thank Harnum for this amazing event and tell everyone to remember that love is very, very important. Love is as powerful as hate. So if you just counteract that and fill everything with love that you do, even when people are horrible to you, you kill them with kindness and love, and it will make the world a so much better place. So, thank you very much.
We got Rachel. Okay. I didn't have the pleasure of seeing her in soundcheck, so I was hearing it for the first time. So I was a bit like, this is got wow, you know, like it hits you. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
So, can you give a round of applause? I'm alright with that. I love how lovely you guys are. I love it. So, moving swiftly on. And we're going to move to our second panel discussion. So I'm going to invite everyone on one by one. So I'd like to start with Kelvin Davis. So Kelvin is a founder and creator of Notoriously Dapper. It's a menswear and body confidence blog. Do you want to tell people a bit about yourself, Kelvin?
Sure. Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay, cool. I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, in the States. And I started a menswear, body positive, body confidence blog for men in about 2013 after having a bad shopping experience that many of us have had. And a lot of men just don't get to talk about it, so I talked about it. Strong.
Next up to the stage, I'd like to welcome Callie Thorpe. Callie is an ex-Mary Claire columnist and a plus-size model. Do you want to tell people a bit about yourself?
Well, right. Is it on? Oh my god. What's the button? When?
Wait, hold on. It's that one.
It's not.
Yeah, it's on.
There you go.
Welcome.
Well, I'm actually not really a plus-size model. I'm more of a plus-size writer, blogger, who occasionally models, kind of, but not really.
Some
for brands.
bodies.
Yeah, so that's it, really. So I'll leave it up to you. I'll sit here.
Next up, I'd like to welcome Millie to the stage. Millie is a self-love advocate, learning disability student, nurse, and mother. Do you want to tell people a bit about yourself?
Well, that's pretty it, but I'm a self-named badass mama.
Show them, Millie.
I go through like my own struggles, mental health, body-wise, and I wanted to share them so people could see the bad with the good, until it's normal. So.
Thank you, Millie. And last but not least, I'd like to welcome Stevie to the stage. Sorry, guys, all of these cheers are starting to sound a bit quiet. And I know this isn't pantomime, I mean, come on. I'm also a technical person.
I need you to just stop the sound. Pressed it.
Yes.
Hello?
Oh, so there's no light. It's the pantomime.
There was no light. I got confused. So yeah, I'm Stevie. I run a male body positivity Instagram. I'm a queer disabled advocate and activist, and I'm here to be like the 13-year-old boys role models in the world, because I don't have one, so I'm going to just create one. And that's basically me.
Fantastic, thank you, Stevie. I feel like I might need to move my chair back a bit so you can all sit. I feel like I'm in your way. So, you ready for the questions?
Yeah.
Excellent, let's get the party on the road.
Is this working? Yes.
Is this thing on?
Is this thing on?
So the first question is, what do you think of plus size being an actual category in the fashion industry?
I think it kind of goes along with, obviously I don't wear plus size, but I kind of do. Like, I'm a UK size 12, and that to me is classed as plus size, which is crazy, but anyways. Going along with what Scotty was saying about it being others, it puts people in that place where it is others. You can't shop in a, I say normal, but again, that's going along with that. Like, you can't shop in the average store because it has to have a plus size section, and most don't. And I mean, if you want the label plus size and you want to earn it, that's good for you, but you should be able to give that to yourself, not be given it by an industry. You shouldn't be given a name by people. It's just as bad as, you know, using fat as a negativity thing kind of thing. You should be able to give that label to yourself and earn it if you want to earn it, not to be giving it onto you.
So it's a bit about having that autonomy.
Yeah.
I'm going to slightly go against the grain for that, because I do really believe in everything you said, but I think what we need to move away from is this obsession with the negativity behind plus size. We need to get over that. Like, who gives a fucking shit about what plus size is? We need to get rid of the negativity behind why we judge the idea of it being a bad thing to be plus size. That's where we need to start. The reason why we have plus size in the fashion industry is because people need to find clothes. If you are plus size and you go into a shop, you need to know where you can find it. Like you said very clearly, it is very difficult for a plus size woman, a man, to go into a shop and find something for them. Our stuff is right at the back, in the dungeons, in the corner. No one even has them most places. You have
the
to go.
Butterflies.
The butterflies.
the dip hems, the cold shoulders. I'm talking to you guys, all of you cold shoulder lovers. But I think it's important that we kind of address what the real issue is here, and is that people have an issue with plus size because they have an issue with associating themselves with being fat. And we need to move past that. It doesn't matter if you're fat or you're thin, whatever size you are. We should embrace the being of who we are and the meaning behind that. It's a label you can give to yourself, it's a label that the industry gives, and I understand why people don't want to be labelled, but sometimes it is needed, and in an idealistic world, we'd have no labels, but we do. So whilst we have them, we need to embrace them and change the conversation and make it more positive.
Well, I would say as a guy, plus size doesn't really offend me, but I can relate to how some people would feel as a woman, the word plus size when they go shopping. Because as a kid, there was the husky section for for boys, or it was like the awkward stage where you're like a teenager, but you kind of built like a man, but you're still a boy, you know? So you had this something like the husky section, and it was a very detrimental place to shop, because they did not have very fashionable clothes, and it was this very isolated and like department stores. So I can see how somebody can feel like the word plus size can be detrimental in that sense, but I can also see how the word plus size can be a very uplifting thing, because I obviously had friends that were husky and they embraced their huskiness and all that, you know. So I think it comes on like a first come, first served basis. Like you have to play by your own emotional ability, you know, because some people obviously don't like the word plus size because it puts them in a category. Some people like to be in that category, so it just really depends. I mean, I personally like being husky now, but back then I did not. Okay. You know what I'm saying? But I like it now. If the word husky were to come back, I'd be like, let's go to the husky section and shop.
I just think it's like anytime like it's all about language. I feel like plus size, like queer, fat, disabled, if you choose to label yourself as those things, you can kind of take the power away from what society is trying to force onto you. So I think it very much depends on the individual. So like I'll go by the term as being disabled and being queer, but some other people in my circumstances might not associate those words with themselves. And I think that's the same as plus size. Like if you want to associate yourself with that, you're kind of taking the power away from the people that are using its negative connotations against you. But I completely agree. Like I feel like it is very limiting for people to shop of a particular size. That's why things like ASOS are really good with like ASOS Plus and stuff. Like this guy, like he's a good guy, and they're like changing. Yeah, Huskies for life, like always.
So I guess we've spoken a bit about being plus sized. I think that there's lots of different labels that people, you know, are attributed or decides to attribute to themselves. So I'm just wondering, how do you think the fashion industry in general shapes the way people look at themselves and label themselves? Because I guess it's not always just plus size. There's lots of different attributes that people have that can sort of be influenced by the way fashion is.
Well, if you look at the fact that we have a tall section, a petite section, and a plus size section, they're simple labels, and I think if we're realistic and being quite frank here, the fashion industry has never really accepted a fat person, and still doesn't really. It's definitely a changing conversation in the last 5 years since I started writing about fashion. I literally used to be so unfashionable. When I say unfashionable, I mean I never used to follow trends and do all that. I used to just wear clothes because I felt like I had to. I never felt like I could wear fashionable clothes because I couldn't find anything in my size. I couldn't find anything fashionable, and I felt very separated from that, like I couldn't be part of the conversation, which to me is really baffling, because if you look at what fashion is, it's a part of self-expression. It's about showing people who you are through how you dress. It doesn't mean because I wear polka dots that that's in trend or fashion. Who cares what's in trend and in fashion? You make your own fashion statement. You decide what makes you feel good. But what angers me about the fashion industry is that we exclude people and say only certain people can be part of it because we don't fit an industry standard. So plus size models are often at the smaller size. You never really see a plus size model above a size 24 on the pages of Elle or even Vogue. And when I was Marie Claire's first ever plus size fashion columnist, It was a huge step in the UK to trying to say to people, look, there are more women who can relate to a body like mine than can relate to a smaller woman, and we already have enough representation of smaller women. We all deserve representation, small, big, whatever. But I think we need to push further and start representing more plus-size bodies of all sizes, and we need some more diversity, basically. Was that the question? Sorry.
I think it nicely answered.
There's also the diversity that goes against from kind of like fat, tall, petite, like you're saying, those categories. It's not just the underrepresented, it's the literally invisible, because when we talk about people with like physical disabilities, learning disabilities, things like cerebral palsy and things like that, they don't fit into those clothes a lot of the time. They don't have clothes that help them put them on in wheelchairs, they don't have clothes that, you know, help carers put them on and stuff, and that's literally untalked about. It's invisible. It's not that it's underrepresented, it's invisible. I mean, do we have a disabled section in the store? You know, would that go down well? Like, you know, we're not representing these people. And we're having these conversations about plus size, and it's fantastic and great, but we also need to get the ball rolling on things like the invisible topics, the invisible subjects and things like that. Because I've worked with the people who've got learning disabilities, physical disabilities, and they literally wear whatever is handed down from family members because they can't be involved in fashion. And to me, there's young girls, there's young boys, and they want to be involved in that fashion and they can't be, and that breaks my heart. And the fashion industry really needs to be held accountable for that, because they are taking away that expression from a lot of people in a lot of like categories. So.
Thank you. I'd be interested to hear from you, Stevie. Somebody who identifies as disabled, what would be your take on this?
Yeah, I feel like Millie said, she kind of like paved the way for people kind of like reclaiming their body in terms of terms that we wouldn't necessarily associate with particular body types. So like my badass body and things like that. It's kind of like those hashtags that are breaking down barriers, that you don't have to be a particular size to be sexy, you don't have to be able-bodied to be sexy, you don't have to look a particular way to be sexy or to feel great about yourself. It's for everyone. Like, and in terms of like, especially for clothing for disabled people, especially like if you've got a physical disability, it's difficult to, like Millie said, like, fit into particular clothes or find clothes that will make you like feel and look great, because you're always going to constantly compare yourself to the types of people you see in the media. And there's no one that looks like you. There's very few disabled like models that you're going to see that have a physical disability. So if you're like a young disabled kid like I was, you'll grow up and look on TV and things, and you'll be like, okay, none of these people look like me. So am I wrong or are they wrong? It's one of those things that you just need more representation for everyone.
So I was just going to say, what I'm getting from what you're saying is the importance of representation and people being seen. I guess you spoke about things being invisible, didn't you? And I think once things are out there and people are able to see who, you know, themselves reflected in the industry, then it's going to make the world a better place. I was just interested in what your take was, because obviously you run a body positivity blog for men.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, you know, what is your take on the way this impacts on men?
The fashion industry has a lot of power, obviously, and we all know that. And the media has a lot of power. And in America, you know, growing up as a kid, you know, there wasn't any African-American male models other than Tyson Beckford, you know. And I looked up to Tyson Beckford because he was like a bigger guy, you know, he reminded me a lot of like my uncles and, you know, people that I personally knew, you know. So it's like when you grow up, you know, seeing like the same image and the same representation, and you're like, get older and you realize that's not really who you are or what you are, you know, it's hard to deal with, you know, and especially, you know, living in a place where, you know, you virtually are invisible, you know what I mean? Because, like, body positivity as a black man was, like, completely different, right? Because it's like, how can you feel confident in your skin when you're gunned down because of your skin, right? Or, like, how can you feel, like, comfortable in your body when you're discriminated against because of your body, right? So it's
relatable.
Like, yeah, right? So it's like, those things often come up in conversation with me because it's like, the journey for body positivity for me is completely different. You know what I mean? Because I mean, I live in a place where, you know, I watch the news and there's people that look like me, but they get shot down and they die. You know what I mean? They're not in the mall looking dapper and looking nice and, you know, having good representation of what a father is or what this is. They're represented as like a marginalized group of people that deserve to die. You know what I mean? So the fashion industry and the media has like a big responsibility to change that. And they have a big responsibility to, you know, change the way people think about a certain race of people, you know, whether it be Asians, Hispanics, blacks, you know, everybody has, you know, a responsibility. And the fashion industry has a huge responsibility in the fucking aisle. Excuse my language, sorry. Excuse my language.
Definitely deserves a round. I'm just wondering, in terms of the rise of social media, so there's lots of body positivity movements, there are lots of movements to accept yourself, to accept other people. How do you think these might be shaping the way people see themselves and see others? So I guess we've looked at the fashion industry, but opening that wide, in a wider context, how do you think that's now shaping the way that we see ourselves?
It humanises people we've been taught to dehumanise. So we've been taught to dehumanise, like black people, Muslim people, fat people, people who don't fit into this such tiny niches, tiny mould. We dehumanise them. We say they shouldn't have rights. They, you know, they don't deserve this medical treatment because they're fat. They're making themselves it. They don't deserve those rights and things like that. And we also do that with like the mentally ill and things like that. We discriminate these people and say they don't have these rights and things like that. And it's not the way it should be. It's wrong. And I feel like social media is helping, like I said, humanise these people. It's giving people a platform to have their stories, show how they feel, give their version of events, and it's making people be like, you know what, hey what, there's so much ignorance going on. And it is 2017, there is no place for ignorance. Like, come on. Have we not seen enough pain and suffering of these marginalised groups to know that it's fucked up, it's wrong?
Well said.
I think, touching upon that, is that I think social media has allowed people to learn and grow. And I think, acknowledging my own personal previous faults, when I was first started on the internet, I actually started writing a diet diary, so called Slimming in the City, very original. And that was how I started on the internet. I was trying to lose weight, and I was like, I'm disgusting. My career is, I didn't have a career. I came out of uni and I was like, I'm not, you know, I'm never going to be anything. I'm fat, this is it. Like, all my friends were slim and pretty and beautiful, and they were off doing all these things. And opening my eyes up into the world of body positivity and learning about body politics, learning about my responsibility as a white woman, how I should keep my mouth shut and let other people speak above me, and just in general, just learning about who I am and what it means to be kind to my body. I feel like social media has allowed people to learn and develop, and I think it's a great place for people to continue to do that. But also that means challenging yourself. That means, you know, challenging the fact that really we don't see enough fat black women. We don't see enough women of colour. We just don't see that enough in diversity. And it's using voices and helping to share the voices of marginalised people in a way to help spread that conversation that you were talking about earlier. It's just like why we only see a certain type of person in the fashion industry, and bringing on to Bishamba being the first plus-size Asian model, like, it's incredible. It's just we don't see enough of that, and I think social media can be a bad place. It can be a place that's quite hurtful. It can be quite harmful for some people. But I do think we don't give it credit for the fact that it has opened up a lot of people's eyes and changed people for the better. It has changed me for the better. 5 years ago, I was a bit of an arsehole. When I thought that I was always, you know, like, I will never be as fat as other people, I'm gonna lose weight. And now I'm like, that was a shitty thing to say. And actually, I've learned that all bodies are good bodies, and that it's about learning and accepting that we're all on a journey to be better people. And it's just doing that and doing the best you can. So I think, yay, social media.
So I think social media is amazing. I think it's awesome. It changes the narrative of a lot of topics that a lot of people are afraid to talk about one-on-one, or a lot of people are afraid to talk about publicly. So it changes the narrative of things like, you know, transphobia, homophobia, or racism and all that stuff. It changes the narrative of it. Do you know what I mean? And it really helps people, you know, open their eyes and see a different light into somebody else's life. It humanizes that person, you know, into thinking that this person's just like me. I follow them, like, I like all their pictures, like, but, you know, they may be trans, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? And people need to understand masculinity is very fragile, okay? So masculinity is very, very, very fragile, especially in the States. People, especially men, love to, like, they love to use masculinity as a justification for being homophobic and transphobic, okay? And what being a man is showing love to everybody, right? Like Martin Luther King Jr. was a man, right? Like Barack Obama was a man. Like he showed love towards everybody, right? So when you show love to everyone, no matter the race, skin, like what they choose to identify as or not, that's literally being a man. That's masculinity, in my eyes. You know, we all have our different terms of masculinity, but I believe that there's no room for hate in masculinity, right? There's no need for any kind of phobia of any sort. So what I've learned from my platform is that not only do I have a justice to speak about body positivity, but I have a justice to speak about what it is to be a man, a real man. You know what I'm saying? Like to take care of your kids, to do this and that, and just to be your own person. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, I just want everybody that's watching to know that if you're a man and you're fragile, you need to grow up, okay? You need to man up, okay? You need to stop having so much hate in your heart, all right? Because, I mean, I'm in a country where, you know, we have somebody in office that shows a lot of hate, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not afraid to talk about it, you know what I'm saying? And when you have people like him being a role model, and you have little boys looking at him like, oh, it's okay for me to grab women by the vagina, it's okay for me to build a wall, it's okay for me to be hateful, it's okay for me to be transphobic, I can still be president and be all those things. That shouldn't happen. Right. You know what I mean? So, when you have somebody like that as a role model, and when you go on Instagram and see somebody like me or like Scotty is Fat or anybody else that's a positive role model, it gives that other spectrum of what you should be as a man.
So what I get from what you're saying is changing the narrative around masculinity.
Exactly.
Being able to define it, not these predefined boxes,
exactly.
Being able to shape it into something that's a lot more loving and a lot bigger than everyone thinks it is.
Yeah.
Good point.
I think it's just like Scotty said earlier, like it's a really good tool for seeing people that you wouldn't necessarily interact with on a day-to-day basis. Like I grew up and I knew no other gay people, I knew no other disabled people, and it's a tool where you can find people that are trans, people that are people of colour, people that have mental illness, like things that I can't experience myself, but I can see their experiences through them, and it shapes me as a person. I can see, like Millie was saying, I can see their struggles, I see what they face day to day, and it allows you to check your privilege. Like just because there's things where I'm disabled and gay, but I'm still a white man, like I've still got so much privilege compared to so many people, and I think social media is a really great tool for just telling you to be like, okay, like calm down, you've still got a lot of privilege compared to some people. You can just, it's a useful tool for seeing everything from not only your point of view, but everyone else's as well. And it just brings it into such a perspective that you wouldn't see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, fantastic point. I was going to ask, because I'm sure you guys have a lot of followers, you have a lot of people who look up to you, but we all have our own journeys. You know, it all takes a journey for us to get as confident and as comfortable as we are in the space that we're in. So I'm just wondering, what are some of the key points or key experiences that you've had along the way that have brought you up or brought you to this place that you're at now, for the people that kind of look up to you?
There was a time that I had colored contacts because I didn't like my brown eyes. And I remember that, yeah. Thank you. But I remember that I was a freshman in high school, you know what I'm saying? And I had a lot of friends that worked at Abercrombie and Hollister. You know what I'm saying? And like, they all had like blue eyes or gray eyes or whatever, you know? And I remember I went to go get my eyes checked and I needed contacts or glasses. Watching my mom, I was like, Mom, I want some colored contacts. She was like, for what? I was like, because I want to change my eye color. Obviously, you know, she let me do it, but she let me do it in the hopes, and she was right for me to understand what I was doing to my own self. What I was trying to do is trying to impersonate to be somebody else, and not be comfortable in my own skin. And now that I realized that, like being a 30-year-old, like man, like I realized, like as in like high school, like I wanted to be a white kid. Like I wanted to be like this 19-year-old white Hollister mom. Like why? You know what I mean? Like why? Like why? Like why? And I felt that way because that's all I saw. Like at my high school, that's all I was around, you know, and that's all I was like raised around because I grew up in like white suburbia, you know what I'm saying? So like that's all I was around. So when I got like those contacts, and I mean, thank God I don't have them now. I'm very comfortable with who I am now. But the journey of like you're gonna have those moments, and when you think back at them when you're grown, you're like, damn, that was some stupid ass shit. Like, why would I get gray contacts? Like, that's stupid, right? Like, for real, like Like, that's dumb, you know? Like, you need context to see. Not to change the eye color, right? So,
you know when they slide out.
I think, like, the journey for me, about to get emotional at what you said, yourself. I've been to, like, I suffer with mental health. That's part of my account. I want to normalize it. I've been down. I'm constantly down, which she knows. We go through it together. And I want to normalize that, but I've been down to the bottom many times. I've tried to commit suicide about 3 times. I've almost been successful. I've had anorexia. I've been in hospital. I've tried to destroy myself literally from the inside out. I've done everything. I wear myself harm scars with pride. I've been there. And I think it got to the point for me where I was laid in hospital and I just thought, this is when my son was born, my beautiful baby boy. And I thought of him seeing his mum like this. And I thought of him thinking that way about himself someday. And I thought, you know what? I physically cannot allow that to happen. My heart physically cannot allow my baby boy to look at his beautiful face and think I don't like who I am. And if he's got me as a role model, then I want to be that role model for him. I want to be that role model for him that I wish somebody was for me. And I don't blame anybody, but I want to be there for him. And I want him to grow up and I want him to think, wow, I'm fucking fantastic. I'm amazing. I'm like a force to be reckoned with. And I think one of us said, I think it was Bashindu, said like, NASA should have me because I'm a fucking star. And I was like, oh my god, that should be on like a t-shirt. Like, I want Eli, our baby, to wear that everywhere. And I just thought, I might be that low again, but I will also be that low again knowing that it's going to get better. Right. It's going to get better, like, you know, it's never over when you think it's over. It's not over till it's over, basically. And I want my little boy to live his life knowing that he is a fucking star.
Just repeat the little question there.
So yeah. No, that's fine. So the question was, I guess a lot of you all had journeys that brought you to the place that you are, and it's probably a lot of people who look up to you. So just want to know about some key points or some key experiences that brought you to the place of positivity and comfortability that you're at now.
Well, obviously I said the whole diet thing, so that was like a big factor in changing my perception of what it means to be this size and why I shouldn't be so hideously vile to myself. And it's been a really long journey, and actually it's never always easy. And I think just recently I went through something really difficult where I was subjected to quite a lot of online abuse. I was targeted, I was put into a fat-hating forum, I had received hundreds of abusive messages. One of them was that I should be tied to a car and dragged along the road because I'm fat, and that because I was featured in a magazine that people thought I didn't deserve to be in. And it was probably the lowest moment in the 5 years I've done anything online. And for a couple of days, I honestly questioned whether or not I wanted to carry on, because reading those things about yourself, reading and seeing things that you have previously thought about yourself, and have to relive them and think, oh my god, I'm up that now. But being dehumanized in a way and treated so badly by people just because of how I look is not easy. But I had to kind of think back to key moments in my experience where I felt like I made a difference to somebody else. And being on the internet, it can be a vacuous place. People do go on there to be self-absorbed and all those things, and it's like, great, do your thing. But for me, there was a bigger purpose behind doing this. And one story I always really remember was I had a young woman write to me. Obviously, I write about plus-size fashion, but a young woman wrote to me. It was 4 years ago, and she was suffering with anorexia, and she was in an eating disorder clinic, and she was 5 stone when she wrote to me, and that she told me that she found my blog because the worst thing that she feared in life was being fat. And that was why she was desperate to lose weight. It was her element of control. It was the biggest fear in life was being overweight. And she said finding my blog helped her realise that there was nothing to fear, and that, you know, she was able to live a positive life. Don't cry. And she actually took my blog into therapy sessions, and her therapist then used it in other therapy sessions with other people. And I just thought to myself, you know what? going through having someone tell you you should be dragged by a car, I'm just like, I'd be dragged by a car if that meant that person could escape that horrible experience and get past it. And if it means that some person reads my blog and closes the website and thinks, I feel actually okay about myself today, then it's all worth it for me, so, yeah.
You got me over now.
I think I kind of came from the same area as Ali. Like, I spent years trying to change my body. Like, guys don't talk about it much, but they go through the same thing that girls go through, right? Like, we have the same worries, and we worry about the same things. We have like stretch marks and all the same things that no one speaks about it. So when you're growing up taught that, you know, in order to be a man, you have to be masculine, you have to be like, you have to have six-pack abs, you have to look like a Hollister model, you have to have blue eyes. I've got blue eyes, don't hate me.
You're outnumbered on this stage.
But like when you grow up being taught like you have to fit into this particular box and that's exactly how you be, like you get to a stage where you're just like, well, I'm never going to do that. Like I lost like crazy weight, I did every ridiculous fitty diet, like everything you could possibly take to lose weight, and like ridiculous like exercise regimes, everything like that, and you just end up going back to the way you're supposed to be. It's like, why the hell am I spending all of my time, effort, money trying to change the way I am when actually there's people out there who are like rocking it exactly how they are. So like my biggest point in my journey was like finding people on Instagram, and then I was like, holy shit, like they're killing it and they're just being themselves, and I'm here spending everything I have, like my entire being, trying to lose weight, and actually I'm just like losing my entire person. Like I'm losing me, I'm not losing weight, I'm just going to be nothing if I continue on this journey. So I was like, fuck it, let's just get naked on the internet for everyone to see.
So it's social media is I'm going to aim this at you because I know you didn't get a chance to speak on this question. So we've got some questions from the audience, and it kind of ties into what you've all been saying, really. So the question is, if you could go back in time, what would you say to your 14-year-old self for body image issues?
That's good.
It's good, right?
It's good.
Very emotive.
I definitely want to tell myself not to get the damn content.
I had them too as well. It's natural, it's natural.
I think the biggest thing I would have told myself is to love thyself, you know, just really, really just embrace who I am. Do you know what I mean? And to understand that the way the media views me or like the way society views me, it's okay. Because it's not going to change me. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to change me as a person. I still wake up every morning and I'm still notoriously dapper. You know what I'm saying? I'm still the same person, right? So, and like, I think if I would have told myself, like, you're going to be okay because one day you'll be notoriously dapper. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Because like, you never know where life is going to take you. Like, when you're in high school and when you're a kid, you don't know what's ahead of you. You know what I mean? So you're so stuck in like this individual place. Like I remember being in middle school and like remember like when you get bullied or when something happens, you feel like the day's never gonna end, right? Like you feel like everything is just like your world is ending. You know, and if I guess I would have told myself that life goes on, you know, things get better with time, you know, and all wounds heal eventually. And eventually you just come into your own, and you know, everybody has a different journey, but essentially if you can mash through the negative parts of that journey, then out comes a beautiful butterfly. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Like the butterflies, you get on all those plus size prints.
Does anyone else want to answer that question? What would you tell yourself at the age of 14?
Gosh, I would tell myself to stop worrying, because beautiful is not what you're on this planet to be. I mean, you are beautiful, goddamn, but you are not on this planet to be beautiful. That is not your being. And I would say you will never, ever hate yourself into loving yourself. There is no room for hate. You will never find yourself disgusting so much that it forces you to change and you love yourself. You will never. You don't need to love yourself when you've lost 10 pounds. You don't need to love yourself once you've done this or that, or graduated from uni or college, or got a new job or whatever. You can love yourself now, and there's no room for hate. You will never. I spent my whole life thinking that hate would lead me to love. And it never has, and it never will. you can only love yourself until loving yourself. So I would just say to myself, stop hating yourself, because it's never ever going to bring you happiness. No form of happiness will ever come from hate. Just love.
Brilliant point, thank you. We've got another question from Sasha, and I don't think we've spoken much about relationships really, and being in relationships and how that can affect the way that you view yourself. And sometimes you feel, okay, all of a sudden you're in love with somebody and you're a bit like, oh, maybe I don't look as good as I thought I did, maybe you're going to fall out of love with me. So here's a question from somebody called Sasha online. How can I make my partner understand that needing validation isn't me being vain, it's a need for reassurance. I need to feel loved.
Get that validation from yourself, girl. Get it from your heart. Like, yeah, validation from Rishi is great. When he calls me beautiful, I love it, but I also don't want to base my life on that. If Rishi stopped finding me beautiful, then I want to think, do you know what, I am beautiful. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter if it's somebody you love. Find that in yourself. Validation comes from within, love comes from within. It doesn't come from outside sources. Yeah, there are bonus, it's great. I love that he finds me attractive, but it comes from within.
I'll never stop thinking that, by the way,
guys.
Oh.
I'm going to kind of agree in a way of that. I think, often we kind of associate, especially when being plus size, you associate finding a man or woman. Sorry. That's the ultimate goal, and that's what love's about. But actually, when I first met my boyfriend, now husband, 9 years ago. Oh, sorry.
Is he in the audience? This quickly turned into Jeremy Kyle, didn't it? I'll give him my mistake.
I still really didn't like myself when I met my boyfriend. I just, I didn't get naked in front of my husband now, boyfriend then, for 6 months. I used to just say, just need to leave my t-shirt on. And he one day was like, you do realise that I can tell what size you are with your clothes on, as if I'm walking by being like, in clothes I'm not fat, it's just when I'm naked. And I just got to the point where I was just like, this is actually ridiculous. Mostly because I was just like, this is just so hot. I can't be dealing with being it's too much. But it is, you do want someone to validate you. I think people lie when they say they don't want any validation at all, because if I think back to the question about what would you tell your 14-year-old self, I would say that boy ain't shit. Because when I was 14, I thought the boys that didn't love me or didn't like me or didn't find me attractive, it was the most important thing. But now I think back to myself, I think, when I see these boys that I used to think, he's just, why doesn't he like me? And I'm like, thank God I didn't go there. Because he's just like, I think it's important to have someone love you and have someone acknowledge your beauty, but that doesn't need to be physical. Are you the girl that asked the question? Am I looking at you? No, it's not you. So I was like, sorry. That's awkward. I just made a very awkward really. No, I just basically think that it's okay to acknowledge that you want love and affection. Get naked, be happy, and be good with yourself. That's it.
A lot of naked.
Wild thoughts.
I think it's important, like Millie said, you need to have your own self-worth, right? If you're with that person just because you need that validation, then see ya, you need to move on. But then the opposite side of that, if they don't appreciate what a badass you are, then bye. Luckily, my husband's brilliant, and he knows that I'm like Beyonce. At least that's what I like to believe. But at the end of the day, if he wasn't telling me that I'm attractive and he's attracted to me, I know my own worth. I think it definitely comes from within at the end of the day.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think when you start seeking validation to love yourself physically, you give that person too much power. Because that person then knows that, they have so much control over the way you feel about yourself. And they can bring you high and low very quickly. You know what I'm saying? And in a sense, that could end up to be a very verbally abusive relationship if it goes a different way. Because a lot of people that are verbally abusive is because they have a lot of power over that person. So when you have self-love for yourself, and when you validate your own worth, you're more prone to not let somebody define whether or not you're beautiful. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have a guy, whoever, Sasha?
Sasha.
Yes.
Sasha doesn't have to get validation from her boyfriend to feel beautiful. She needs to feel beautiful just by simply existing, you know? So she needs to do that first, and then everything else will fall into place. And plus, that puts a lot of pressure on whoever she's seeing. Like, I gotta make sure that you feel beautiful at all times. That's too much pressure. Like, I gotta go to work. I can't be making sure you feel beautiful all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got stuff to do. You know? I mean, I can make you feel beautiful every once in a while, but like, but I know, I mean, not
Put
like,
it on a post-it note.
man, my wife should kill me. No, but I'm saying like, that puts a lot of pressure on somebody to say that, you know, I need you to make me feel beautiful, you know? That like.
So what I'm getting from what you're saying is, rather than offering validation, which is short term, it's probably important that you explore the reasons why somebody you love doesn't feel beautiful. Start having conversations around that, as opposed to a short term fix.
Exactly, because I feel like feeling loved and feeling beautiful are two different things. Like, I think she might be saying feeling loved, maybe not feeling beautiful, because feeling beautiful is like a physical thing that like you feel within yourself. And feeling love is like when you feel love from your family, your friends, like showing love. Like, you know, I'm going to the store, do you need something back? Like, that's showing love. Or like, you know, I went to the store to go get some ice cream, I got your favorite. Like, I love you. Do you know what I mean? So like, showing love and like validating somebody's beauty are like two different things. Like,
I think people mix that up in relationships.
Yeah, it does.
They go into a relationship expecting to be in that relationship for a week and think they're like the hottest person on the world. I mean, you should do anyways, but they think they're going to get that from a relationship. I mean, to me, love is when you are literally sat. I mean, I suffer with depression, so there's been like times where I haven't washed for 2 weeks, sorry Rishi. And he will like sit with me when I stink and I don't brush my teeth and my hair's a mess, and he'll sit with me and he'll talk to me and he'll cuddle me even though I bet his eyes water. And to me that's love, and I feel beautiful then because I feel beautiful inside because I'm loved. Not because Rishi's saying, oh, you look hot or whatever. It doesn't really mean much to me in that sense. If he's hugging me and finding my heart beautiful, that's what matters the most to me. That's what's the most fulfilling thing. You won't find true, deep-rooted love or relationships from somebody just finding you physically attractive. It doesn't happen. And I think people go in relationships almost expecting that to happen, and it won't.
Right. Thank you. I've got some sad news. We're coming to the end. But what I'd like you to do before we wrap up is just let everybody know where they can find you on social media, if you want to be found. It's making assumptions.
I'm notoriously dapper on everything: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Notoriously dapper.
Thank you.
All one word.
Stevie?
You can find me at bopo.boy. This guy says bopo period boy. That's not what it is. It's bopo.boy on Instagram, and then everything else is just Stevie Blaine on like YouTube, Twitter, that sort of stuff.
Millie?
I am Self-Love Club with 2 B's, because somebody already took Self-Love Club on Instagram and I'll put them down. But it's Self-Love Club with 2 B's on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram.
And Kelly?
I'm just my name, Kelly Thorpe, on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. And Facebook, sorry, I haven't changed that around yet, but that's an old from the cause of the curve, but we're moving forward. So in about 2 weeks, there'll be Kelly Thorpe, so.
Fantastic, thank you. And on social, no, I'm joking. Can you get everyone a round of applause, please?
For having me, because when I was a kid, I had like a really bad stuttering problem, and I was in speech for about 12 years, and I never thought that I would even be able to like speak publicly, let alone speak in private, because I would like stutter over every single word. There was like a time where I was stuttering so bad, I asked my mom to make me eggs, and she made the eggs before I even finished the sentence. Because she knew what I was asking for. Do you know what I mean? So I just want to say thank you for you guys letting me speak, and thank you for listening. You guys are all beautiful, and I hope you learned a lot. Thank you.
to you
You
guys.
really have a box of presents, don't you?
I'm not going to lie to you guys. I feel like Santa Claus. Thank you so much for that. Did you guys enjoy that? Yes! Right, that was an epic event. Even I had to fall back a little bit. I was like, jeez, I did not expect it to be like that. But do you know what? The host has been thanking everyone that's been on stage. Can we please thank the host? I have tokens of gratitude from Lush, and I believe that as much as we have to love ourselves internally, we have to love our bodies too, right? Because our body holds our soul, right? So for I've got presents. I'm going to read out your name, and can you please come up to the stage and just grab your box. Oh yeah. No, I'm joking. Can we please have Lottie on stage? Thank you so much, your insight, and thank you for sharing your journey with us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Next we have Callie. Your blog is amazing, and I really appreciate you coming. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we have Amelia. Thank you. Then we have Rishi. We can't forget Rishi. Come on. And we have Scotty with the blouse. Rachel. Chinarima, where's Rachel?
Rachel office.
Rachel, can she hear me? Hi Rachel. Hi. I mean, my voice isn't as heavenly as yours, but you know, come. This is for you. Thank you so much for blessing us with your amazing songs and your lyrics and your voice. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Next we have Bishamber. Woo! This woman is powerful. Come on. And we have Calvin from America. Come on. Thank you for coming. By the way, Calvin and I were admins for F Your Beauty Standards, and this is the first time we're meeting each other, and we have known each other for about a year.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Then we have, who's this? Oh, Holmes. Where are you? Where? Your poems were so powerful, and thank you for coming. Thank you for blessing us with your poems. Richard. Charlotte. Lottie. Are you already? Uh-oh.
I mean, I'll take another one.
Just put my name on.
Okay, I think that might be cats. Who's this
Biscuits.
This is for Stevie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. Who do we have? Hey.
Do you want to say it?
This one's for you.
Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for coming. And I hope we can have more amazing events like this. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we have half an hour left in the building, so I'm guessing they want to do pictures and whatnot. So this is your time to get in now. Harlem said thank you. We've said thank you. Thank you to Lush and everyone that was involved. Your box is kind of big, bro.
This is mine, too.
It's kind of big, bro. And everyone follow on the social networking. What was meant to happen today? We were meant to give away some books. So what's going to happen now is anyone heard of author called Mel Noakes. If you haven't, don't worry about it, the book is epic. We're giving away some books. What we want you to do is hashtag love thyself. We want you to give the best piece of advice you heard tonight, and within the next day, we're gonna go through it, pick the best person, pick the best people and send out. We've got about 5 books to give away. So any 5 people could win in here, you never know. Apart from that, I'm gonna say now that are we good to close off. I wanna say thank you. Where's Karen actually? Let's get Karen and team. Who actually likes to use the space. Where's Karen? Is she hiding? She gonna hide? Right. All I know is that Bashamba's cab is booked for quarter past, and I want a picture of Bashamba as well. So what I'm trying to say to y'all right now is that everyone, round of applause.